I woke up this morning with an eerie feeling.
Where is this going?
So I got up, opened the door, and smelled it. Did you smell it?
What the Rock is cooking? What?
I smelled it in the air. Estrogen wafting down the streets.
What?
Today's $9 candle day at Bath & Body Works. At Bath & Body Works.
Yeah, it reached us all the way.
Yeah.
The nearest Bath and Body Works is like, what, 12 miles
12
away?
miles away. But I still could smell the estrogen.
That's their newest candle scent.
I was like, oh, if you value your life, you will not get anywhere near
Stay away from the mall
Bath
today.
& Body Works. Stay away from the mall today, because I'm telling you, $9 candle day at Bath & Body Works is like the Christmas version of The Purge.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. That even pulls me in because they have some candles that smell.
They do. Twisted Peppermint's my favorite. I'm not knocking anybody for going there for because $9 is an
You're just braver than I am.
Yes.
Hot cocoa and cream is my favorite. It's
literally wall-to-wall, shoulder-to-shoulder people, and it's the Christmas version of the movie The Purge. You are literally taking your life into your hands, because
that's true.
Every woman in that place is getting the maximum number of candles that they can get, and woe to any man, woman, or child that gets in her way.
It's not wrong.
Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the Bookish Introverts podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie and Brett, and we are back today to talk about a book. And
yes,
this is our Christmas edition, one of our Christmas editions.
One of our Christmas editions.
So we read a Christmas book today.
We did.
Did you like it?
I did.
Are you into Christmas books? I know.
I mean, I never really thought about it as a genre before. I mean, Christmas movies, Christmas specials, I get, but as a book.
So you don't typically read Christmas books?
I've never sought it out.
Okay.
But I think your book might be the first technical Christmas book.
If anyone's looking for a Christmas book to read, I wrote a Christmas book.
He did.
Called.
And it's okay. No.
A Christmas to Live For. I had to stop and think of the title of my own book. Christmas to Live For.
Yeah. No, it's good.
It's 3 pages shorter than War and Peace. So, not literally, but yeah.
I was about to say, did you just pull that out of thin air, or is that true?
Well, half of what I say, I just pull out of thin air. So, yeah. So, but I actually enjoy reading Christmas books. And this is the 6th one I've read this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just never thought of them as a genre. I mean, as a kid, there's books you read that take place at Christmas. There's, I had a copy of The Littlest Angel. I don't know if you ever read that as a kid. It's an old book from
if it's old, I'd never
40s.
read it. No.
Well, I'm just saying it's been in print for a long time, so
okay.
It's considered a classic. So a lot of kids born after it was published would, possibly have it, kind of like Little House or something like that. And there was another one about a grandpa in a carousel, and I cannot remember the name of it, but I loved that book. It drives me nuts every year. I try to think of the name of that book, and
you can't.
He makes carousel horses.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It was a fantastic book.
It's like a classic book.
I think so.
We might be able to, if it's a classic book, we might be able to Google a Christmas book about a man who it didn't pull anything up.
It didn't pull anything up, but I think that one was Christmas based. But
well, if any of our listeners know of that book, let us know.
About a grandpa who makes carousel horses by hand. Give me a shout.
Yeah.
Help me out here. But this book is The Christmas Guardians by Janice Voorhies, it's usually Voorhies. I don't think it would be pronounced any other way.
And I'm not a big horror movie person, but every time I see the name Voorhies, I think of Jason Voorhees. Is that Nightmare on Elm Street or?
That's Halloween.
Jason Voorhees? That's not Halloween. That's Mike Myers. Michael Myers.
Michael Myers is Friday the 13th.
Is it Friday? I couldn't remember if it
I
was
think it's
Friday
Friday
the
the
13th
13th.
or Elmore. Or
All I know about that is the music that goes with it, and there's a hockey mask and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes. Well, Jamie Lee Curtis is in Halloween.
Is she Michael's sister? I thought she was Jason's sister.
Mm-mm. Yeah, she's in the Halloween franchise.
I've
never watched any of them because I don't like horror movies, but I do know she's on Halloween.
The closest I'll get to horror is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. That's my jam.
But yeah, for some reason my mind always goes to Jason Voorhies. I'm like, that's really interesting considering I don't watch horror movies, but yeah. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see where it would come up.
Yeah.
Janice, who is not Jason.
And she's not his mother because I do know Jason Voorhees' mother, I think, is buried in the bottom of the lake or something.
How do you know all this?
YouTube. I don't like watching horror movies, but I like watching people who like talk about horror movies, like.
Okay.
Like I like to watch that kind of stuff on.
There was a movie called Watcher in the Woods that Disney made.
No.
That was too scary for me. It's a Disney movie, y'all. Anyway, that's rabbit trail. We're not going to go down that way.
Melanie has sensitive sensitivities.
It's a terrifying movie. I'm not going to lie.
Is it really? I've never seen it.
My brother and sister don't believe me, but it's terrifying.
Maybe I need to check it out.
One of these days I'll find a copy and give it to my sister, and then she'll know. Then she'll know.
Then she'll know.
Anyway, Janice, who's being left behind in all this, she moved around a lot as a kid. I lived in Sacramento, Detroit, Dallas, Baltimore, Albuquerque.
And I'm sorry, there's not a single one of those places I would ever want to live. I'm not a big city. I like to go visit big cities, but I don't want to live in them.
I'm from New Mexico, and I love New Mexico. You could not pay me enough to live in Albuquerque. Would not do it.
Yes.
I would live on the outskirts for enough money.
This eggnog latte is really good.
Oh.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah. We're already having a lot of rabbit trails this morning.
Sorry, guys. She went to college at BYU, Brigham Young. Said staying home seemed frighteningly predictable.
Well,
so you do you. Whatever. She's married. She has 8 children.
How can it be predictable with 8 kids? That's just what I'm wondering.
That is definitely a way to not have it predictable.
Yeah. Like literally, that's like, to me, that seems like the total opposite of predictable.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Some people just would rather be out working, and I'll never understand those people.
True.
I go to work grudgingly every single day.
Hello, Brett's boss.
Nothing against my boss. She's a delightful person, but I would much rather sit home and do what I want to do.
I've never met her, but from everything I've heard, she seems really nice.
Yeah.
So when her youngest went to kindergarten, she was offered a position as an English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she taught in middle school and high school and loved teaching both. She retired and ran for and was elected to the District Board of Education. Fancy.
Yeah, that's pretty high up.
And she has written 2 novels. This one and I believe the 12 Days for Christmas. So the 12 Days for Christmas and the Christmas Guardians, which is the one we read.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it wasn't at all what I was expecting. For some reason I'm the one that picked it. And for some reason from the summary on it, I was expecting like a road trip book.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I got.
No, not what you got.
And it's probably my fault. I probably misunderstood.
Hey, before we get into the book, I do want to say something.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning with an eerie feeling.
Where is this going?
So I got up, opened the door, and smelled it. Did you smell it?
What the rock is cooking? What?
I smelled it in the air. Estrogen wafting down the streets.
What?
Today's $9 candle day at Bed Bath & Body Works. At Bath & Body Works.
Yeah, it reached us all the way.
Yeah.
The nearest Bath & Body Works is like, what, 12 miles
12
away?
miles away. But I still could smell the estrogen.
That's their newest candle scent.
I was like, oh, if you value your life, you will not get anywhere near
Stay away from the mall.
Bath
today.
and Body Works. Stay away from the mall today, because I'm telling you,
Buy them online like civilized people.
$9 candle day at Bath and Body Works is like the Christmas version of The Purge.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that even pulls me in because they have some candles that smell.
They do. Twisted Peppermint's my favorite. I'm not knocking anybody for going there for Christmas, because $9 is an
You're just
exceptional
braver than
deal.
I am.
Yes.
Hot cocoa and cream is my favorite.
It's literally wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder people. And it's literally the Christmas version of the movie The Purge. If you are literally taking your life into your hands, because
that's true.
Every woman in that place is getting the maximum number of candles that they can get, and woe to any man, woman, or child that gets in her way.
It's not wrong.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I feel special because you told me on my way over here that today was National Take Melanie Off Day.
Yeah.
Who knew that would coincide with Bath and Body Works?
Since today is National Take Melanie Off Day, you might not want to go to Bath and Body Works.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
No. So we have a few main characters. We've got Ramona, Viola, Annie.
And there's kind of 3 different storylines.
Yeah. We've got Mark Gifford, Carrie Ann, and I'm guessing it is pronounced Marisa.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the Spanish, I would just call it Marissa, but probably Spanish people would call it Marisa.
Marisa, that's my guess.
You got to get that R roll in there.
Eduardo, and their family, and
the mother's name is Luz. Yeah.
Luz. I'm from New Mexico, y'all. It's been a while since I lived there. My Spanish pronunciation ain't what it used to be.
You've lost it,
and
to your southern drawl.
It wasn't that great to begin with. So
actually, you don't have a southern drawl.
When I go back to New Mexico, people tell me, where'd you get that accent? I don't have an accent. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
So, this book, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of saw where it was going from the first 2 or 3 chapters.
Well, to be fair, most Christmas books are very predictable.
Yeah.
There's not much. You pretty much know what you're going to get before you even get into it. That's just.
I didn't have a problem with knowing. Because I still didn't know how we were going to get there.
Yeah. Well, and I read 5 or 6 Christmas books a year, so I clearly have no problem with the predictability of them.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Yeah. But it all starts, it's a cold and rainy night. It's 3 weeks till Christmas?
3 weeks till Christmas.
Ramona is the first person we run into. She's probably, I'd say, in her 60s. Well, she's retired, so.
Yeah, she's 60s, retired school teacher. I had a hard time following the ages of all these people. I don't know if I was just not.
Well, I mean, they never come right out and say. It's just, you kind of have to infer.
Yeah,
just from what they're doing.
Eduardo, I had no idea how old he was through the whole book until I think finally we got to the end.
He was a teenager.
Yeah, but I didn't know if he was 14 or. But I think I found toward the end somewhere it mentioned something about him being 18. So, yeah. So I went through the whole book not knowing how.
I figured he was somewhere between 15 and 18. And it might have said he was one of Carrie Ann's students. It might have said what grade she taught in her subject, but I may not have picked up on it.
And I'm horrible at remembering details from early in the book because I'm just, you're trying to learn who everyone is, who's significant, who isn't, and so
and it jumped around a little.
It did.
Sometimes it was hard to keep up, but again, that could just be me.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, me too.
But Ramona's driving home after a city council meeting, which she goes to keep everyone in check.
Yes. Yes.
It's cold. It's rainy. And she's mad about the fact that it's rainy because it's close to Christmas. Why is it raining?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Apparently it doesn't do that in Utah.
And Ramona
it rains all the time here.
Yeah, exactly. We get more rain than snow here.
Yeah, for sure.
And ice. And Ramona is a very strong personality. I'm going to be honest.
Incredibly strong personality.
Was not a fan of Ramona. I'm not usually one to like hate on characters, and I didn't hate her.
She's a
But
lot to take.
there were several characters in the book that were really kind of jerks.
There were a few
that were just rude and loud and ridiculous and like jerky, and and like it by the time I got to the end of the book, I was like, okay, there are too many people with the same personality in this book. I can take one character and be like, okay. But when there's several characters, like it kind of got annoying to me after a while, because I'm like, okay, you're rude and you're rude and you're rude. Yeah.
There seemed to be a lot of clashing going on.
Yeah, there did. So
that's okay.
Yeah.
So she's driving home. She sees a flash of light, and she gets out to investigate and finds a child.
Because why wouldn't a 60-year-old woman get out in the middle of the night in the pouring rain and investigate a flash of light?
Well, it's just
it's the book.
It's what the book wanted her to do.
It's the
plot. Which they don't really say. I don't really say. They don't say how old this child is until about halfway through the book, which I figured it was somewhere between the ages of 9 and maybe 13.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it.
But she finds this child and takes her home and calls the authorities.
Because the child can't remember her name. She can't remember where she came from, how she got there. Yeah, she
doesn't remember anything. And
we know how you love an amnesia trope.
Gotta love amnesia. So a detective shows up, and it turns out to be it turns out to be a former student of Ramona's, and this is where we find out she's
and he was kind of a troublemaker student.
Apparently, a little bit of a troublemaker. But he wants to send the child to Children's Services. But Ramona's like, no, she's going to stay here with me. And he's like, well, we'll see what the judge has to say about that. He's not going to be happy that you're circumventing the law. So,
and like only Ramona would be like, no, we're not going to follow the law and send him to Child Services. I'm going to keep her here with me.
I called you, but I would like you to go home.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So he leaves because he's like, I'm not fighting her. Just kid will still be here tomorrow.
And again, only in a book would that happen, where the law says, okay, we're going to turn our eyes from what the law says. We're going to let Ramona have her way.
Yeah. So she gets summoned the next morning by the judge, and it's her and the girl who they've decided to call Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't just keep calling her the girl.
The girl,
which I agreed with.
Yeah. Even dogs get names.
Yeah. Her and Annie and Ramona's neighbor and friend Viola, which I know it's a legit name, and it's an old fashioned name. It's a beautiful name.
Yeah,
but I hear it in Pepe Le Pew's voice. Viola, remove from you the bonds of slavery. But the judge is like, we need to put her in Child Protective Services so we can, start her in the system. And turns out Viola is a licensed foster mother. So they just hand over Annie to Viola. And she kind of splits her time between Viola's house and Ramona's house. And that's fine with her. But her story is that she found herself out in the rain, and some man came up to her with long white hair and an overcoat and gave her this piece of paper and said she would need it. And then he disappeared.
It was a piece of paper with shiny gold border.
Yes, shiny gold border. And
shiny gold.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what Detective Gifford, the Detective Mark Gifford, has
and a
to go off of. And a keychain.
There's a red keychain.
Heart-shaped
keychain.
With the ink all
of the ink was worn off. Yeah.
Yes.
So those are the two pieces of evidence that he takes and uses to hopefully find out where she came from.
Yes. And in the meantime, we jump over to Carrie Jane Plunkett, who is a teacher at the school. She has a troubled student named Eduardo. Last name, I believe, is Caballero.
Yeah.
I think, he's smart, but he doesn't do the work, and he's just very not.
Well, and he's always done the work, but all of a sudden,
Yeah.
he has stopped trying.
Yeah,
And so it raises, and of course that's
He's
that's a
failing.
red flag for
Yeah.
a teacher when you have a student that typically does well, and then all of a sudden they're not.
Yeah, he's failing, and she's concerned,
And one
as
thing
a
that-
good teacher would be.
And one thing that made me laugh in it was when, I don't think anybody said it, but it was more of a thought. Eduardo, it said something about he knows he's smart. Okay, where is it? He knows he's smart, but he's angry at all the stupid people around him.
Yes.
I'm like, Eduardo, I feel you. We're surrounded by idiots.
We are Scar.
Yeah. I just that cracked me up because I'm like, that's hilarious.
Yes, it is funny.
Yeah.
It is funny. But she finds out in a meeting with his father that Eduardo has been fine for a long time. Even though he had a rough start at life, his mother died when he was still a very little boy. His father's remarried though, and his new wife, not new wife, she's been his wife for a long time. They have children, and Eduardo loves them and gets along with them and helps take care of them and
is
everything.
A very pleasant woman.
Yes, the
like
stepmother loves him.
Usually step parents in books and movies are like the wicked step.
That's true. You've got the wicked step.
They're not
trope,
nice people, but like she was actually a very pleasant character.
I'm sorry, y'all. I keep bumping into stuff. Apologies for sound issues. So they've got all this going on. She's trying to help Eduardo, and we don't really know what's going on with Eduardo. Just that he's angry.
Yeah, and you don't find out really until
it's about halfway through the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on that you really don't know. Eleanor in the beginning of the book, Ramona, as she's driving, and like in the very first chapter, before she finds Annie, she's talking like in her mind, or like she's sort of ruminating about Eleanor, and she wonders where she is, what happened to her.
Yeah.
Ellie. It's Ellie, not Eleanor. Ellie. And like it's literally like 3/4 through the book, maybe even more, before you even find out who Ellie is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in the book that you really don't know until like way into the book.
There's just a lot of mysteries.
There is.
It can get hard to,
which I kind of liked it.
Track of. I mean, it was nice to have
to kind of I wonder what's going on with that. Yeah.
There's also some town drama going on. This is a small town. It's an agricultural area. And the mayor seems determined to raise about, and RAZE raise, about 3 blocks of the downtown area to make room for this new, shiny, sparkling, state-of-the-art shopping center. And a lot of people are against that, but she's managed to kind of turn the tide in favor of it, because now people are seeing dollar signs and the jobs and the growth. And well, what about all the small businesses down there that are just already fighting to keep afloat?
And then when you get a sharper image down there, that's really going to put all the little people out of business.
Turns out there is a choir practice. Sorry, I'm not good with the equipment.
Every time we touch anything, we get like a bong.
So there's a choir practice. Ramona and Viola are both in I guess it's a town choir. It's not a church choir, because
it's like a big town choir. They do the Messiah every year.
Yes, and they have the practice at the Mormon church in town.
And the choir director is a tyrant.
Oh my gosh, the choir. All the capitalized words. I'm like,
yes,
you need to take a breath, honey. Just this ain't the Pops. You're not conducting Boston Pops Orchestra here. This is
exactly
just simmer down.
This is Podunk, USA.
Yeah, and no hate to that, because
we live in
some of the most beautiful voices you'll ever hear, you'll find in small towns. They don't venture outside the small towns. Yeah. So there.
I mean, Carrie Underwood literally lives an hour from
That's true. That's true. And I do like Carrie Underwood.
Yeah. And
She
she literally lived in Podunk. So,
I'll say this, she did not sound like that when she was a kid.
well, no. She grew into her voice.
I'm just going to say, I heard her live once, and I don't mean to be mean to a kid. But
You never knew she would be the next dream, that she would be the next American
I
Idol.
like her now.
Oh, I do too.
I think she's got a great voice.
Yeah.
It's like, that's who everyone's been making such a fuss.
Right?
Anyway, I'm going to get myself in trouble.
Carrie Underwood, please don't sue us.
Please. I like you. I really, really do. I sing your songs at the top of my lungs in the car.
Yes, we love you.
But yeah, the choir practice for the Messiah, Handel's Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Which, have you ever performed the Messiah?
No. I had to Google it to even see what it sounded like.
It's an interesting piece to perform. I've
heard of it, but I've never listened to it.
I always liked performing it, even though I was an alto, and really as an alto, your only job is to sing one note.
Yeah.
Or a variation of 3.
Altos and baritones are basically the invisible people in the choir.
It's true.
You blend in and nobody knows you're there until you're not there.
Listen, without us sopranos, you'd be nothing.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. In a choir setting, sopranos would be nothing without altos, because there's nothing to anchor your little airheads to earth.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Sandy Patty. That was not meant. I'm just ticking off all the singers today.
I'm telling you.
Sandy Patty or Kristen Chenoweth or Sierra Boggess here. I really do love all of y'all.
Melanie's kind of saucy today.
I am. This is National Tick Off Melanie Day.
It is. We're gonna milk it too, aren't we?
So they're at this rehearsal, and Annie's just carried away by the music. She absolutely loves it, and she starts singing, and that's when they find out Annie has an amazing voice. Mm-hmm. So she becomes one of the soprano soloists. Surprise!
You've been kicked out from your solo. Although the lady that had the solo got hurt or something.
Yeah, she fell getting out of her car in the parking lot and sprained an ankle. People, okay. Even my choir director at university was not that. I mean, just calm down.
Yeah.
What was her name? Janine?
Janine. I think it was Janine, yeah.
Like the choir director from Hades.
She was. I mean, she was literally a tyrant. I would not have done well in her choir, because I would have been the one that would put her in her place.
No, that would not have worked for me.
Anyone that knows me knows I have a mouth on me and I use it.
That's true. So they go home and they're talking about all this. Well, a little girl shows up at Ramona's door while Annie's over there. Annie answers the door, and there's this little girl, like 4 years old.
Marissa.
And she's out there in the snow. No coat. She's asking for money.
So her family can have Christmas presents.
And Annie's just like, what? But that's when Annie realizes that she can understand Spanish. Mm-hmm. To her surprise.
Another clue.
And once they kind of figure out where she lives just by directions, Ramona gets them and puts them in the car, and she gives her directions. Well, they live, maybe 3-4 blocks away?
Like half a mile. I think it said half a mile.
Not too far. Yeah. They get to the house, and Ramona's a little, just a little racist. It's a little over the edge.
Yeah, a lot of stuff about Ramona is a little bit over the edge.
Yeah, she's because her first thought is these Latinos that don't take care of their kids, and I'm going,
yeah,
and send their kids out to beg for money. I was like, really? That's a thing? Right? Is that a thing in your town? Because that would be the time to call Child Protective Services.
For sure. Yeah.
You should be well acquainted with them. You don't send your kids out to beg for money.
Exactly.
So they get to the house, and that's when they find out that her mother has been looking for her. She had no idea where she had gone. Her older brothers had kind of, I think her mother was like taking a shower or something.
Yeah.
This kid just walks out the door because apparently she overheard her parents talking about the money situation and how they were going to afford Christmas presents and stuff like that. And she decided she would help and took it upon herself to grab a bag and go
Canvass the neighborhood. Okay, now, I don't have kids, but I've had kids in my life. My little goddaughter, I love my goddaughter Autumn more than I love life itself. But I don't, this, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. Some people do not know how to write children very well. And if you cannot write a child in a believable manner, you really just ought to not write kids. And I don't feel like Marissa was written, I feel like she was written as a little adult. First of all, what 3 or 4 year old child would just walk down the neighborhood looking for money?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
You think? I mean, I know kids have gotten away from their parents, but like how many kids would logically think, okay, mom and dad are having financial problems, so I'm going to canvass the neighborhood and try to get money for Christmas
That's a fair
presents.
point.
It didn't feel genuine to a 3 or 4 year old kid.
That's a fair point. Most of her behavior, I was on board. This particular one, I can see what you're talking about. Most of the stuff she said and the way she acted, I was like, yeah, it's just a bossy little 4-year-old. She's the princess in the family, and that's fine. I've met kids like that, and they weren't bad kids. They just had a very lively personality, and they knew what they were after, and very precocious. I didn't have a problem with most of her behavior.
I just felt like some of her behavior.
This one was a little odd.
A 3 or 4 year old.
Yeah, this one was a little odd. But her mother's very apologetic.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry. We did not tell her to do this. But yeah, she just snuck out to scan the neighborhood. Enterprising. You got a future kid, I guess.
I'm telling you.
So they meet that family, and they have
and they're all like, "Oh, come in, have a cup of coffee."
Yeah. So they strike up a friendship there.
I'd be like, "Thanks for returning my kid. Can you leave now?" Not really.
But they find out she's got 4 brothers, 3 older and 1 baby brother.
Mm-hmm.
But meanwhile, at the school, Carrie Jane runs into Eduardo and confronts him. What's the problem? What's the issue? And
there's something she said here that I got to bring out when you get to it.
Oh, yeah.
That I thought was very strange.
Why are you failing? Why is it that you're failing your class?
Yeah, I've talked to your dad and we've decided this is your problem. I was like, okay, that is a very weird thing to say to a struggling child.
It's a little odd.
Yeah, not, oh, are you okay? Is there anything I can help you with?
Yeah.
This is your problem. What's up with you?
It may not be worded in the best way.
Yeah. I was just like, that's very weird.
Maybe a better way to word it would be, I've talked to your dad and we sense there's
been
something
a
that
change
is
in your behavior.
Something that you are struggling with.
Yes.
Maybe that would have been a little bit better choice of words.
Yeah. Well, we've decided that this is your problem. Like if I was a kid and someone said that to me, I'd be like, well, bye.
Later.
Yeah. Like that would totally turn me off. You would get nothing out of me after that.
Yeah. So that's when Eduardo leaves the school, and that's when we find out kind of what's going on with him. He
leaves and goes to the hospital.
No, he goes to the home.
Oh, to the house. That's right.
He goes to a house.
Yeah.
Which apparently is the house of a girl who is pregnant with his child.
And it took me forever to catch on to that because it really? Even in the beginning, I don't think either that or I missed it. Like, did it say in the beginning that
I think it mentioned something about it.
Okay.
When he went to the home.
Because even in my notes, I think I even made I'm like, is she pregnant with this kid? And a question mark. Like for me, it wasn't very clear until
I see.
A few chapters
No,
later.
It said something about when her father found out about the baby.
Okay.
I think it mentioned it in passing. You may have just missed it.
I probably just missed it. If I'm in a part of a book that's just kind of boring to me or slow, I tend to skim or zone out.
Yeah. And again, this is where we go jumping around. Officer Gifford or Detective Gifford.
Yeah.
Since he's not an officer.
I kept forgetting his name throughout. I'd be
well,
like,
everyone just calls him Gifford.
yeah. And
no
I kept
one-
thinking, Kathy Lee Gifford. Okay, Gifford. Yeah.
No one calls him Mark, which is his first name, except Carrie Jane, because they meet up and there's a little bit of a spark there. So, but she doesn't refer to him by his name very often. She just kind of talks to him, and there's not a lot of Mark this, Mark that.
Yeah.
So everyone just kind of calls him Gifford. But he finds a man who did see Annie and the white-haired man, but that's where it comes to an end. But Carrie Jane takes him to a nearby town to meet with a friend of hers who owns a bookstore who hands out these little heart-shaped key rings. And turns out,
so they go there
that's where
to
it came
see
from.
if the key rings match what they found in Annie's pocket.
And they do. It matches. And he takes her out to dinner. So
yes,
romance,
budding romance,
a little bit of a romance, not a lot, but
that's one thing I liked about this book. There wasn't any overt romance, and there was a couple of like there were Ramona and Judge John. There's sort of I got the feeling that there could be a little romance there. Carrie Jane and Gifford.
Yes. Yeah. But in the meantime, to keep this mall from happening, Ramona and the judge from Annie's case, Judge John Callister, apparently they went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
They joined forces to try to figure out how to keep this from happening because neither one of them are on board with this. And then we find out that Ramona's daughter went missing several years ago, 20 years ago.
Yes.
Her daughter apparently liked a boy that she and her husband didn't approve of. They never met him, but they didn't approve of him, which was a little weird to me. Like, you can't at least meet him,
right?
I don't know. Maybe she started acting different after she met him or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah.
And I don't remember if it said how old her daughter Ellie was at the time.
I think she was like 17 or 18.
So
she wasn't very
17
old.
or 18, but that is old enough to start dating. So I could understand them. It'd be like if she was 13 and starting to try to get serious with the boy. I could understand them saying, "Okay, look, you're too young for this." But at 17 or 18, stop being a tyrant and let your daughter date.
Yeah, he's right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
stop meddling.
Ramona's daughter, who we learn is named Eleanor. Ellie.
Yeah.
So they're not impressed with the boy she's dating. And they even try to bribe her with a car, Ramona and her husband.
Which I'm saying, as a guy, I might be willing to give up a girl for a free car, but probably not.
And then their daughter stops talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
And Ramona.
So
and
they
her
jump
husband,
to conclusions.
Yeah, Ramona and her husband Amos.
Oh, she must have listened to us.
Oh, she must have stopped seeing him. That doesn't just because they're not talking to you.
Yeah, it just means that's my passive aggressive way of you not liking my boyfriend, so I'm going to stop talking about him.
Yeah, neither one of us are parents, but I can tell you right now, none of this was handled correctly. I'm sorry, it just wasn't.
This is a good lesson on how to not be a good parent.
So they're doing dishes, Ramona and her daughter, and they find out. Ramona tells her that she's glad Ellie came to her senses and stopped seeing her boyfriend.
And I literally, when I read that, I palm slapped my forehead. I'm like, girl, you just screwed up.
Yeah, and that she would have had to tell her she couldn't live at home anymore.
Okay, now
she kept seeing him.
Would you have done that as a parent? Like,
no.
Sorry, my 18-year-old daughter, we do not want you to date this guy, so we're going to have to kick you out if you don't stop. That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard.
If your child is dating someone that you don't like, even if you've met them and you're like, oh, I do not like them, why would you not want to keep them at home?
Yeah, you're just asking them
to
to
keep
run
an
away
eye
and
on
get
them.
away
Like,
from
if
you.
you're afraid this person is no good for them or is going to do them harm, why would you not want to keep them at home?
Yes. At least, yes.
What?
And regardless of whether you agree or not, they're going to sneak around. So you
Yes.
may as well just, again, she's 18 or 17 or 18. She's not 13.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
just a very ludicrous.
Yeah. So, shocker, the next day, her stuff's all gone, and so is she.
And they never saw her again.
And they never saw her again.
Yeah.
Um,
All because Ramona had to be a jerk.
yes. Yes.
And her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was not handled well.
No.
And to her credit, I believe Ramona realizes that.
She does.
She does realize, but you know what? Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, before the concert can take place, which the concert is supposed to take place at the school. Is it in the gym?
Yeah.
Because that's the only place big enough to hold.
Or the auditorium. Yeah.
Yeah,
Somewhere in the
gym
school.
or the auditorium. Only place big enough to hold the choir and the audience.
Well, and they mentioned somewhere in there that they were expecting like 2,000 people at this event. I was like,
I thought they said 200.
oh, did they say 200? I thought they said 2,000.
I thought they said 200.
Oh, they may have. Maybe I read it wrong.
Maybe he put an extra zero in there.
Because I remember thinking, wow, this is supposed to be a small church. Like I think we've got like 10, 12, 13,000 people in Van Buren. And we would be lucky to have 200 people to show up for something like that. So
that's the Messiah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That
sounds like it's something Christian. So we're not going to do
that. But before the concert, there's this big storm that hits the town, and lightning hits
the bell tower.
The bell tower and catches the high school on fire. So there's no place to have the concert, and of course that's the first thing the choir does. It's like, there's no place to have the concert. That's what she's concerned about, not the fact that there's also no place to have school. There's a possibility that someone was in the school at the time, the overnight workers or, just the fact that there's no
place for her precious choir to sing. Yes. So and ridiculous. I get it. When you've been working on something for months, that's a disappointment.
But where's your human empathy?
Have a little bit of compassion on the person who may have died in the building. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what they decide to do, Annie comes up with the idea. There's this huge abandoned building. It used to be a department store, Christensen's.
Yes.
And they come up with the idea, maybe we can get it cleaned up.
And it's a very derelict building, very out of repair.
Maybe we can get it cleaned up and fixed up, just in time for this concert. That's 2 weeks?
Yes.
I think at this point we're 2 weeks from Christmas. And they think about it and like, well, you know what? These high school students, they have nothing to do. School is effectively canceled for at least the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. So they recruit they don't force the high school students to do it, but they recruit some of the high school students volunteer and some of the staff volunteers, the carpentry students and their teacher, they come out and they decide to clean up this department store building to use as a concert venue and put like drywall up and fix it up and doesn't have to be fancy. Just
past muster.
Yeah. Yeah. So while that's going on, Gifford's still running around trying to figure out who the heck Annie is. He gets her fingerprints and they run a test on him and her fingerprints are like an 80-something% match with a girl who died 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, this is how my brain works. And I'm not, something's wrong with me today. I don't have a filter on it. And all I can think of is a scene from Friends with Joey. You died. I'm sorry.
I love Joey and Friends. That's a hilarious show.
Ghost. But as they're cleaning the building, Annie encounters the white-haired man again. And he tells her, you're going to need that paper I gave you, which of course the paper is locked up in evidence.
And of course, he's very cryptic every time. He never says, oh, this is why you need it. It's just, you need that paper.
Yes. Yes. And then he disappears again, just as quickly as he showed up. And I don't think anyone else saw him. I think she was the only one.
Yeah.
And then Eduardo takes off one night because he gets a text from his girlfriend. She's obviously his girlfriend. Her father does not, I don't think her father even knew she was seeing Eduardo, that they were in a relationship, and she got pregnant. And of course, when he found out she was pregnant, he just basically locked her in a room.
Yeah. And I'm just saying,
more great parenting decisions.
Yeah, her dad made Ramona look like a fresh spring breeze.
It's true. It's true.
He was literally the worst person.
The worst. But she texts Eduardo that she's gone in labor, and he takes off. Doesn't tell his parents. His parents have no idea that he has gotten this girl pregnant. And I mean, he's madly in love with her. He is just, as only a teenage boy can be.
And I'm sorry, at some point when you've gotten a girl pregnant, I understand being reluctant to tell your parents, but when your daughter, when she's up and fixing to pop the baby out in 2 weeks,
it's time.
You need to man up and tell, look, I know this is bad, but this is where we are.
Yeah. So
bad decision on his part.
They realize he's missing the next day, and Mauricio makes her way to Ramona's house. Just
again,
off this
4-year-old child just acts like she's 20.
Yeah, because she thinks Annie can help find Eduardo. Oh yeah, that was the other clue I forgot to say. It turns out Eduardo is the oldest brother in this family.
Yes.
And Liz is his stepmother, and Marisa is his half sister, along with the other boys. And a clerk at the mini mart,
which I thought this was weird. Just this random clerk at the mini mart was like,
I didn't think about it, but yeah, I guess it is kind of weird.
I saw them together at the library. Like, this random clerk is like the one that pointed them in the right direction.
Yeah, because Eduardo and his girlfriend.
I'm like, does the clerk go to the library every week? And like, it was a very weird way.
It was odd. I didn't think about it till just now, but which his girlfriend's name is Belen, and again, I think it's more like Balin.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But I don't know, because she's Hispanic too. But it might be Balin.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure it's a very pretty name. I just don't want to butcher the pronunciation.
It's Helen with a B, so I just pronounced it Belen because I'm Southern.
Yeah. If my uncle's watching this, help me out.
Tell us if we're wrong.
Fluent in Spanish, my uncle is, so he might be able to help.
Yeah.
And Annie wakes up a couple of days before Christmas, another day after Eduardo has disappeared, which he's at the hospital this entire time. He is at the hospital, and this boy has not called his parents. I'm like, you have to let them know where you are. Yes. But he is very preoccupied with his girlfriend and apparently and this baby and her father, which her father tells him in no uncertain terms, "You'll never see my daughter again." Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, whatever.
And I really didn't understand the reluctance of Ed. I mean, I get that's an awkward conversation for an 18-year-old boy to have with your parents.
It is.
I've gotten this girl pregnant, but his stepmother is an extraordinarily pleasant person.
Yes.
And from what we didn't really see as much of the dad as we did as we did the stepmom. But he works with his dad in the garage, so it seems like
what we see of it seems to have a relationship.
They seem to be a very functional family.
Yes.
So I'm like, I don't understand his reluctance. Other than I get as a guy that would be a very you don't want to disappoint your parents.
I think it's more a fear of disappointing them.
Yeah, you don't want to disappoint
than
your
anything
parents.
else.
Yeah,
which I can understand.
Yeah.
But Annie wakes up and is desperate to see the paper that they found in her pocket because she had a dream about Eduardo.
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks that paper is the key. So Ramona takes her to the police station and she's like, I want the paper. And Gifford's like, well, okay.
Gifford is like, this is highly extraordinary. We all have seen it. There's nothing on it. There's no fingerprints that the lab has tested it. There's nothing that we can glean from it. But okay, Ramona has spoken. So yeah. He basically just does it just because Ramona said so.
Yes. So when he goes to the evidence box, the box is glowing. And I was like, yeah, that ain't normal.
No, that's not normal.
Something you see every day. Not on CSI, not on Law and Order. And when he takes the paper out, there are these strange symbols on it, and he doesn't know what they are. But when he shows it to Annie, she can read the words.
Yeah.
And there's a name for that language.
I have no idea.
But we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
That leads them to, is it the baby? Seek the baby?
Seek the baby.
Seek the baby. And Maurice is like, well, I know where there are lots of babies because she has this baby brother, and they went to the hospital, and there were lots of babies there when her baby brother was born. So,
and again, a 4-year-old is the one that draws the conclusion that it's the hospital. I'm like, yeah.
Some of this requires you to just suspend belief, and that's really fine. It's a fiction book.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's Christmas. It's the season of miracles.
Yes, for sure.
So they get to the hospital, and that's when they find Eduardo, and they find out that he's had a baby, and his stepmother's just like,
what?
What?
Yeah.
Why did you not tell me? She's more hurt than anything. Relieved that he's okay. And that's when they find out that the baby, which was a girl, is named Eleanor after Eduardo's mother. And guess who Eduardo's mother is? Yes, that's right. It's Ramona's daughter.
Yes.
So Ramona's grappling with that reveal, and Eduardo's
because she didn't know her daughter was dead.
Yeah,
she just.
Yeah. I mean, I think she kind of figured at this point
after that many years, but yeah.
But now she's finding out that she has a grandson, and apparently now she has a great granddaughter, and they've all been there, just within a mile of her home. Yeah. All this time, and I thought Eduardo was just getting a little too angry over this.
He was.
It's like, you need to simmer down, my guy. Why are you being hateful?
Well, but again,
his emotions are running high.
Yes, when you've gotten your 18-year-old girl pregnant.
Oh no, she was 16 when he got her pregnant.
That's a very high stress situation.
Yeah.
So, but still, his anger was a little bit out of hand.
It was a little too much. Like, he lunges at her.
From a guy perspective.
60-year-old woman, why are you lunging at her? Exactly, she's not doing anything to you.
From a guy perspective, I can kind of get it, though, because, he's having to worry about not only, I haven't told my parents yet, how am I going to raise this kid? How am I going to support a family? And, so I can kind of get the high stress, but
yeah. This is when the girlfriend's dad comes to the hospital, and he produces a court order for her and the baby to be released. The baby was born cesarean. Mm-hmm. So she's still in the hospital, and she's having, it was a big strain on her body. She's having trouble recovering. And they've told him that it's not advisable to take her home at this time. But he's produced a court order since both his daughter and the baby are minors.
And the doctor is trying to help them a little bit, because she knows her dad is not a good person. So she's trying to help them by keeping her in the hospital as long as she can.
But he's saying, Eduardo's never going to see my daughter or this baby ever again. Eduardo's stepmother offers to take the baby. She can't do anything about the daughter, but she offers to take the baby, but the judge wouldn't allow it. Ramona's over there calling Judge John. And there's a lot of stuff happening at once because everyone is there. Carrie Jane is there.
Yeah.
Her friend Flora is there, which whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's an interesting character, Flora.
For sure.
What kind of name is she?
I have no idea.
Is it Flora?
I
don't know. I kept wanting to say Flora, but that wasn't the name. It was FLOR. But yeah, literally everyone is there. The stepmother and Marisa, Annie, Viola, Ramona, Gifford, Carrie Jane. It's a lot of people.
Even the man
Carrie
with
Jane
the white
and her
hair
friend,
shows up.
And then the man with the white hair shows up. And that's when we find out that Annie is an angel, and she was assigned to help find Ramona's daughter, which she has done.
Mm-hmm.
All of this has been a lead up to finding Ramona's daughter and probably helping Eduardo as well. But they are both angels, which I kind of saw coming, at least for the guy.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't much farther along when I was like, yeah, I think Annie might be an angel too.
Yeah.
So that's when we find out that she's an angel and the guy is an angel, and there's this explanation about how she was assigned to help find Ramona's daughter, and Ramona has this long lost family. And then they disappear. They're gone.
Yeah.
That's it. But during all this, after they leave, Hidalgo, the father,
Belen's father,
he threatens to kill Eduardo. And that wasn't smart because now...
Especially when there's a cop right there.
Yeah.
Gifford.
So now Gifford arrests him for terroristic threatening, basically, and attempted assault. And Judge John...
It's a good way to get a bad guy out of the way, I'm just saying.
Judge John talks him into signing permission for his daughter to marry Eduardo. And in return, they will not move forward with threatened charges, assault charges. So in the end, Eduardo and his wife, we end with a wedding. Eduardo and his wife and baby Eleanor, they actually all move in with Ramona. So there's a less crowded space for them to live, and Ramona gets to know her grandson, and she gets to help with her great-granddaughter. And she, to her credit, she apologizes to Eduardo's father, who, as it turns out, is really quite the stand-up guy. It's a little weird that she never ran into either of them, which she wouldn't have known him, but
true, yeah.
It's odd that she didn't run into her daughter, but I guess, her daughter would know how to avoid her.
Yeah, exactly.
But so the Christmas Guardians are really Annie and
the white-haired guy.
The white-haired guy.
Did he ever have a name? I can't remember.
He did not.
Yeah, I didn't think
he did not. Yeah. I believe he was an angel, but I don't think he had a name. He referred to Annie as a newer angel, which goes into people that have passed on becoming, because obviously she's the girl that died 50 years ago.
Which I don't agree with that. People do not die and become angels.
I waffle back and forth. Yeah. I personally believe that people who have, people who we lose that have gone on to heaven, I believe they can see what's happening, and I believe they watch over us, but I don't know if I feel like angels are a different entity.
Yes. Well, God created angels back in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think, and I mean,
it's a very comforting platitude to say that my loved one has died and now they're an angel. But yeah, I don't believe humans become angels.
I do believe they watch over us, and they have an eye on us, pretty much whenever they want. But as far as like a legit angel, I don't think that's the case. But you know what? Yeah. I'm not in heaven, so I couldn't really say.
Yeah.
There was.
Yes.
And I see you've counted here.
Yes, I will. On Amazon, this book is listed as Christian fiction.
Yes, it is.
On Goodreads, it's not listed as Christian fiction.
Really?
Or religious fiction. Yeah. And I was very annoyed by this book because there was lots of profanity.
Definitely more than you would think. There were
12 that I counted. And they were what I consider minor.
They are technically minor.
It was the D word and the H word.
Yeah.
I never read anything other than those two.
But if that kind of thing bothers you,
yes,
you need to know that going into this.
There is, and I do not understand why authors.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and I meant to say that in the beginning.
Sorry.
I kind of meant to give that warning in the beginning, but I don't understand why authors publish books.
Necessary.
Like, why do they publish books in the Christian fiction genre and then put profanity in it? Because generally people that read Christian fiction, They do it because they don't want the filth and worldly secularism of secular books.
Yeah.
They don't want profanity. They don't want dirty scenes. They just want good, clean reads.
Yeah.
Now, for me, for Christian fiction, a lot of people, they want very deep, very meaningful spiritual content, scriptures, all that. For me, I don't really have to have all that in a Christian fiction book.
No.
I just want clean book. So it's very shocking to me that anyone...
The cuss words kind of took me by surprise. I was like, oh, okay, there's one. And then they kept happening.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me a whole lot.
Yeah. The only reason it bothered me was because it was
classified as Christian fiction.
It was classified as Christian fiction. And I don't like that. If you're going to put profanity in a book, don't classify it as Christian fiction.
Yeah.
Just
don't
do a secular book.
Yeah.
So,
but I will say there was one thing I appreciated. They mentioned, I think it was the courthouse. Was it the courthouse that was decorated? There was a building that was decorated. It might have been the department store. It might have been the department store. And she mentioned, this is where the author's time in Albuquerque comes through, because she mentioned luminarias. I love luminarias. I miss them. There was always a house in Roswell that had all these luminarias. It was a beautiful home. That decorated the walkway, and it was along the edge of, they had some swoopy things, and they were along the edge of that. And they're very simple luminarias, but they're just so beautiful. And when you put them with Southwestern architecture, which they might be popular in Utah too, I don't know. But I know you're going to see them in Albuquerque. But as a Christmas decoration, I just love luminarias. They're just so pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty.
I'll need to go home. Maybe I can find a picture and give it to Brett, and he can put it up. My favorite picture of a luminaria decorated home. If I could get away with doing it here, I would, but I don't see how I can. So that's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right. No one decorates with luminarias here, and that's fine. It's not really part of the culture here.
Yeah.
No hate. I just love Christmas lights in general, but
me too.
There's just something about luminarias that makes me happy. So I appreciate the luminaria. Shout out.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that, but
yeah,
it was a good book.
Mm-hmm. Overall, I liked it. It was a pretty good book.
We probably sound like we didn't like it. I'm feeling extra snarky today, and Brett's not keeping me in check. So.
No.
It's his fault.
It's my fault. Well, I'm snarky always. So when somebody's snarky along with me, that encourages me.
Yeah.
So
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But overall, it was a good book.
Yes, it was. It actually was.
I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. I would have given it 4 stars if it weren't for all the profanity, but I did take a star off because I just think there is no place in Christian fiction for profanity.
I agree.
Now, I will say that a reviewer on one of my books left a review and said that one of my books contained profanity.
That still baffles me.
I do not put profanity in my books, and it really, first of all, it annoyed me because everyone that reads everyone that reads that review they could pass up on my book because they think it has profanity in it.
Yeah.
And second of all, it hurts my reputation as a Christian fiction author.
Yeah.
So, but
I read the book. I proofread the book. There was
no
cuss word in that book.
No.
I don't know what she's talking about.
Well, but I think I know what she was talking about. In the book, it's sort of it's a book I wrote called Unprotected, and it's a cautionary tale about what happens if the Second Amendment were to be revoked in the United States, and we were to lose our right to bear arms. And in the book, one of the characters says something about, well, the world's just going to hell in a handbasket. But that is
a phrase.
In the context. This is why it's so important for readers to have the ability to discern context.
Yep.
hell is a place.
This is a place we're
it's a
talking
noun.
about.
It's a noun. If you say that's a profanity.
Yeah.
Hell in a handbasket, we're talking about the place of hell. So that's why as readers, it's very important to have the ability to discern context. And, so like this person, and I mean, they still gave it a 5-star review. So overall, it was a good review, but her inability to discern context could hurt me
in the long run,
because people could read that, which I kind of posted about on Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, because it bothered me. It upset me. I don't want people to think I put out content that has profanity in it.
He's not Taylor Sheridan.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really bothered me. So I did put, and thankfully a lot of people kind of came to my issue, people that had read it. They were like, oh my gosh, I've read it. So several people did go on there and they said, and I think you even added that to your review as well.
I did.
That, hey, I read this. There's no profanity. Several people did go on and leave reviews saying, well, contrary to what this other reviewer said, there is no profanity in this book. And I appreciated everyone for doing that. So,
yeah.
But
anyway. Just be forewarned if you decide to read this, even though we just completely spoiled the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, but see, I don't really see that as spoiling anything, because that's something people need to know. If you are reading...
yeah, but no, we talked about the whole book.
Oh, well, that's all right.
The ending and everything.
Well, that's all right.
So,
yeah,
but if you decide to read it, there's profanity.
Yeah, yeah. There were, for people that are bothered by it too, there were several editing issues.
There were a few.
And again, I'm not knocking the author for this.
No.
She's only written 2 books, and it's very easy for reviewers, to leave snarky reviews about it needed an editor, blah, 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 blah. It did need an editor. There were a lot of skipped words, words that were there that shouldn't have been there. There was one word that I saw that it was just the total wrong context. That was like the wrong word totally. But as an author myself, I understand it. Editors are prohibitively expensive, especially for new authors. Most new authors,
but
yeah, like
professional editors,
you can barely get a subpar editor for less than $3,000 or $4,000, and that's on the low end. Like if most new authors, they're never going to recoup the editorial, because it's people typically only want to read famous authors. They only want to read authors they know. A lot of readers are not willing to give a shot to a new author. And if people aren't picking up your book and reading it, then, so I can understand why, especially new authors don't get editors, because they're just prohibitively expensive. So if that sort of thing, like for me, I'm able to, even though there was a lot of things, like it didn't pull me out of the story. I'm capable of just sort of glazing over that. Some people go into a rage. If they find even one mistake in a book, they go into a rage. It just totally messes up with their reading experience. And several of the reviewers that I read on this book, they were just unhinged about it. I'm like, do you really need to let it ruin your... Exactly. Do you really need to let it mess up your... So anyway, for people who... I don't want to dissuade anyone from reading it, but if you're one of those people that it just outrages you to find even one mistake in a book, you might not want to read this one. Yeah. You might want to get over yourself a little.
I say that, but I made fun of 5 News the other day because of their typo.
What happened?
On the newscast, but really it was an inexcusable typo. There is no Wallaton Boulevard.
No, there's no Wallaton.
I'm just like, y'all keep putting this up there.
Well, and in the instance of the news, you're like, it's like,
even my husband,
it's like a 7-word sentence. You had 7 words to type, and you got one of them wrong.
Yeah. Even my husband, who does not care about that type of thing, like at all, he's just like, yeah, so whatever. He was just like, really?
Yeah.
Walton. It's Walton. Literally built Northwest Arkansas.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like the wealthiest family in town.
Y'all can't get the name. And how does spell check? There's no such word as Wallaton.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Who knows? Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. I took a picture of it. That's the kind of person I am. I took a picture of
it. When it comes to stuff like that, I almost find it like it doesn't bother. Like when I come across words like typos or things like that in a book, for me, like I kind of like, oh my gosh, I caught something the editor didn't catch, especially when it's bigger books, like, so it really doesn't bother me that much. I don't understand why people get so upset about it.
On the news, it bugs me.
Yeah. Well, again,
you're going to bug me. You're the news.
You had 7 words to type. Well, yeah, like in a 7, like when you've got a 70 or 80 or 90,000 page book, even if there's 5 errors, that's like 0.1% of the book. Do you think you can let it go? But no, some people can't. Yeah, but again, that's the nature. I saw a interview. I think it was. I watch a lot of author interviews. I like to hear authors talk. I think it was Mary Higgins Clark. It could have been someone else because I watched so many I can't remember. I saw I think it was Mary Higgins Clark, and they were talking to her. And no author is immune from bad reviews. True. I don't care how good your book is. Yeah. You're gonna get bad reviews. You're gonna get bad reviews because no book's for everyone. I get that.
No.
But they kind of got onto the subject of bad reviews, and Mary Higgins Clark, she passed away a few years. You'll have to forgive me if you're not the one I'm actually talking about, if it was someone else. But Mary Higgins Clark, she said, I'm thankful that I'm an old broad and started writing before people had the opportunity to leave reviews on everything. She said, because people are just mean. She said, they're petty, they're mean, they're nasty.
I am anyway.
In the reviews, And she said, back in my day, because I think she started writing like in the 70s, her career started taking off in the 70s. And she said, back in my day, there was no Amazon, there was no Barnes and Noble, there was no place for consumers to leave reviews. She said, so if anybody wanted to ruin my day, it had to be like a critic in the New York Times or something like that.
Yeah.
She said, we didn't have the petty readers.
There are a lot of petty readers.
There are, and she said, one, in my opinion, she said, this is totally my opinion. And I know nobody cares what my opinion is. She said, but in my opinion, consumer reviews do not need to be a thing. Because she said, people do not, she said, they're nasty. She said, I'm grateful for all the good reviews. She said, but there are so many nasty people out there.
And they just do it for fun.
They leave revenge reviews, and that's why me as an author, I even hesitate when I leave reviews. I hesitate to leave honest reviews, which I always try to be very nice in reviews. But especially on Goodreads, when I leave a review, it tells people that I'm an author.
Yeah.
And authors, like if you leave an honest review, not mean, but just like on this one, if I were to say, there's typos in it, minor typos, there has a lot of profanity. Authors can leave revenge reviews on other authors' work. Well, you left bad. So I'm very careful about leaving reviews because I don't want to get revenge reviews.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very funny that Mary Higgins Clark had that. She said, I'm so thankful that I grew up in it, that I started my career in a time when consumers didn't have the ability to leave reviews. But and she said, I'm thankful I'm at the point in my career, reviews don't really matter to me because people are going to buy my books no matter what.
Yeah.
Because she had a very big loyal following, and no matter how many people trashed her books, she had a loyal following that was going to go buy those books and read them. So she said, I don't read my reviews. She said, I have people that read my reviews, and they'll be like, sometimes they would give her like a little tidbits of what people are saying, but in general, she said, but I feel really sorry for people that are starting out their career like this. She said, because those petty reviews can literally ruin authors' careers before they even start. And so I thought that was really good insight coming from someone like her. Because,
that's true.
Yeah. So
I hadn't thought about that, but
yeah. So be nice when you're leaving reviews, especially, I'm not saying don't leave honest reviews.
Yeah, but there's a way to do constructive criticism.
Yes. And my method when I leave reviews is, even if I'm leaving, I never leave a review unless I can give at least 3 stars on a review. If I can't give at least 3 stars, I just don't leave a review. Again, because I'm an author and I don't want to get revenge reviews from other authors. Plus, I don't, especially when it comes to Christian fiction, I'm very careful about leaving overly critical reviews because Christian fiction is a ministry. It's
Yeah.
a type of ministry,
It is.
and I don't want to ruin someone's ministry with my snarky, petty, negative, overly critical review. But when I do leave, like on this one, I left a more critical review than I usually do. I did say, there's 12 profanities in here. Um, uh, but again, I feel like that's kind of a service to other readers too, because Christian readers,
They should know going in.
they should know going in that if they're, because most people read books because they don't want that.
Mhm.
So, but when I'm writing a review, especially if I'm being a little bit more critical, I use the sandwich approach. I'll say something good about the book that I really enjoyed about it. Then I'll mention, if there's anything about it that I didn't care for or whatever. And then I'll end it with a pleasant,
Yeah.
so I try to be very balanced in it. I don't think I've ever just massacred a book, and I'm a huge review reader, and there's a lot of people that do. I think a lot of people just love targeting authors and just love massacring them and their books.
Well, it's like trolls on Facebook.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. People are just, trolls on Facebook, and a lot of times I think readers, they leave reviews based on the mood they're in. If they're in a crabby mood, then that's going to be reflected in their review. And there are some people, they're crabby all the time,
It's true.
like on Goodreads, I've got people that I follow and are like, they never leave a good review on any book they read. Like they're literally, every review is like 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars, and I'm like,
That's sus.
why do you even read a book? If no book ever entertains you, if no
Yeah,
book
why
is,
read?
if it's never good enough for you, why do you read? Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, soapbox. So overall, you like the book?
I did like the book.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Okay.
the book.
Yeah.
I really did.
Good. Yeah, I did too. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you picked it. It was a good book. I don't have a book picked out for next week. We kind of had a conversation. I kind of have an idea for one.
Okay.
I talked to you about before the podcast. We did talk a little because our next podcast is going to fall on the weekend of the 21st.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if she, the holidays are a busy time for people. So I didn't know if she was going to have a lot of things going on, if you wanted to take a week off, or if you wanted to like record it next week and then just drop it the week after to give you more time during the week of the Christmas.
Right.
But I think we decided we're just going to go ahead and do it on our regular schedule. So
I think so.
And I was even thinking about doing a non-Christmas one, just because this was my 6th Christmas book and I'm kind of tired of Christmas books. Because I'm not going to lie, I've read this was my 6th Christmas book, and 4 of the 6 Christmas books have been total like thumbs downs. So I've not had very good luck with Christian books this year. I read one by Letitia Sexton. It's called The Heart of Christmas, HART. It's
HART.
HART. It's about a hockey player.
Kind of like the heart of Dixie.
Yes. Yeah, and the one of the characters' name in the book is Hart. That's his last name. He's a hockey player. He's a famous hockey player, and it's sort of a they're kind of trapped in the house together, and this love interest sort of develops. And so anyway, that one was a pretty good one, even though it was very much too much romance for me, but it was still a good book. Like I actually enjoyed that one. And then this one, I actually enjoyed this one despite the profanity and everything. So I was like, do I really want to read another Christmas book? Because I'm kind of tired of them at this point. And I'm just like, I've had 4 duds so far. So do I really want to chance it again? But I think we may do a Christmas book by Richard Paul Evans. Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Okay. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's a very popular author. So I thought we might do one of his books.
Okay.
So, I'm blanking on the name, something about winter. So I think I'm hoping maybe it's going to be more of a winter read than maybe a blatant Christmas read. So I was thinking about maybe doing that one.
Okay.
One of his. So
works for me.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure which one yet, but we'll decide. So you want to say anything else before we you want to take us out?
Can't think of anything else. You can find us on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Just search for Brett. No.
Yes. Brett.
Just put in Brett. See what happens.
It's kind of like share. Brett. Yeah. Bookish Introverts podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
And we are also, you can find the podcast YouTube, Spotify, all those fun iHeartRadio,
Audible. Yeah, we're on like 20 different podcast platforms. Just go to any platform and just even on YouTube.
Just type in Brett.
Our YouTube, well,
Bookish Introverts.
Our
podcast.
YouTube channel is under Brett Nelson because it started as my personal author channel. But if you just Google it, like if you just go to the YouTube or any of the podcast platforms like Spotify, if you just go to their search engine and type in Bookish Introverts podcast, that'll pull up all of our content. So you can do that. You can email us at gmail.com, bookishintroverts@gmail.com. So we love to hear from people. So other than that, I think we are done. Yes. Everybody have a nice Christmas. Although you'll hear from us one more time. Christmas. So hopefully everybody gets all.
But if you don't hear that before Christmas, then Merry Christmas.
And we forgot to tell everybody Happy Thanksgiving at the last one.
Oh yeah,
happy belated
Thanksgiving
to everyone. Yes. So all right, well we're going to get off here, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.